So recently there's an investigative report that just came out called the Durham report, and in it there were some investigations going on into the Hillary Clinton campaign back in 2016 and what was going on with some of the campaign finance funds. Well, as early as yesterday, a report came out about some of the money transfers, who it went to, what it was for, and who was actually overseeing this. And this is a really interesting story because it involves our favorite head of the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler. So if you think things in the crypto space couldn't get any weirder, well, it's about to. And jumping in on more political stuff, what's going on up in Canada should be shocking to everybody. But what just happened is essentially the biggest commercial for Bitcoin that I have ever seen. And I'm not the only one pointing that out. And if you go on crypto Twitter, you'll see exactly why. Hey everyone, my name is Randy and welcome back to the Late Night Grind. And right now on this channel, I'm covering the Ripple versus the SEC case, but I'm also covering cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you click that subscribe button and join the Late Night Grind community. Don't forget to click the bell notification icon. That way YouTube will send you a notification when I release a new video. And if you're feeling generous today, I'd really appreciate it if you do two things: smash the thumbs up button and watch this video all the way to the end. Those really are the two best things that you can do to support a YouTube channel. So if you do that, I greatly appreciate it. Alright guys, let's jump into it. So we're going to start off talking about what is going on up in Canada. Now I'm in the United States, so up is of course Canada. Well, Prime Minister Trudeau recently enacted what they call the Emergencies Act. What does this do? Well, it essentially gives him power to control all of the financial industries, including the banks, which what he says is for the purpose of shutting down bank accounts for those that they consider terrorists, mainly the trucker convoy, the protesters that are up in Ottawa right now protesting for freedoms and civil liberties, and basically the right to be left alone. Now this of course is getting worldwide coverage, but of course Trudeau, as of a couple of weeks ago, said it was just a relatively small number, a relatively small faction of protesters, but as of now has to actually enact an Emergencies Act, basically going up until just stopping short of military action against the trucker convoy. So shutting down bank accounts. Why is this big for crypto? Well, that should be pretty self-explanatory, because if you can shut down and control bank accounts and control the dollars, well, you're essentially cutting off the fuel source, the food source for those protesters to continue doing what they're doing. So that essentially is his goal. Now, if you have seen last week, GoFundMe had raised over $9 million that was supposed to go to support the trucker convoy, the protesters. Well, GoFundMe recently said that they don't support that, and they're going to be taking all of the funds and donating it to whatever they want. They recently backtracked and said they were going to give some refunds, but nonetheless, they will not be delivering funds to the protesters. So another one came up and said, listen, if you donate crypto, we're going to donate that crypto to the trucker convoy, to the protesters, which is actually what I said should happen several weeks ago. The first time I saw that GoFundMe said they will not be supporting it and will not be delivering funds, I tweeted and said, Bitcoin fixes this. Why? Because it's a peer-to-peer network. There's no banks involved. There's no intermediaries involved. And even another crowdsourcing platform is simply just an intermediary, which they could simply pass on the administration of it should they need to. Now, as someone on Twitter pointed out, not just me, that Trudeau enacting this Emergencies Act and essentially confiscating all of the fiat is one of the biggest commercials for Bitcoin that could ever happen. And in fact, today, Bitcoin versus the Canadian dollar actually started to soar as people realize the importance of cryptocurrencies, decentralized finance, and non-KYC self-custody, which means keeping your own Bitcoin in your own digital wallet, not even keeping them on exchanges that could potentially be regulated and controlled by said government. So let me know in the comment section down below if you are following this story, because it is certainly a crazy one. And speaking of crazy stories, our crazy chairman of the SEC, Gary Gensler, is back in the news, and this is what is essentially being called a breaking story. So recently what came out was the Durham report, and this is an investigation going back to the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign against Donald Trump back in 2016. There was a lot of shady things going on. There were some people saying, hold on, there's a now campaigns are messy in the first place, but some of this seems like way far-fetched, way over the top, and so an investigation began into what those actually were. Well, it now came out that essentially the Russiagate, the Russia collusion gate, the Steele dossier, all of that stuff was of course fake, and that evidence has been proven for some time. But what they were trying to do was figure out who funded it. Now, the Durham report was investigating where those funds came from, who they came from, and who they went to, and basically what they found out was most of that came back to the Clinton campaign. Not shocking, but nonetheless, that's where it came from. But what is shocking, or could be shocking to some of you, is that there was a certain person involved in the campaign finance oversight of the Hillary Clinton for President campaign funds. That's right, Gary Gensler. In 2015-2016, he was appointed to be the chief financial officer of the Hillary Clinton for President campaign funds management. So he basically sat down at a desk and signed all the checks that were to go out every day. According to him, that's basically what he did, just sign a bunch of checks. However, with the Durham report coming out, and now that they're finding out that there was millions, literally millions of dollars, over $8 million that came from the Clinton campaign fund that were sent directly to Clinton attorneys Elias and Perkins Coie, and if Perkins Coie rings a bell, it's because they were the ones involved in essentially facilitating the Ethereum free pass speech given by William Hinman. But nonetheless, millions of dollars went to those attorneys to essentially pay for all the Russian collusion information, all the Russian spy information, all the Steele dossier information, all that stuff that was later found to be not true and made up. Well, now they tracked where the campaign funds came to. So if you're Gary Gensler and you were the CFO of that campaign, well, you might not be able to sleep as much at night right now, considering you might be suspect number one in terms of questioning where that money was going. Now, of course, it is fair to say that he might not know where that money was going to go if he was in fact just signing checks and sending millions of dollars to attorneys, not knowing exactly what it was for. It could be that he is in the clear. But nonetheless, if you're actually doing an investigation on this, you're going to be looking to him in terms of asking him some tough questions in terms of where this campaign finance money went to and why and how much you actually knew at the time. According to some of the reports that I read, this Durham report that is just coming out has enough evidence and information in it to indict a handful of people. Now, don't know if that will be Gary Gensler or not, but nonetheless, I would not want to be in Gary Gensler's spot right now. So if you think his actions in the crypto world were kind of crazy, who knows what was going on back then? All we know right now is that there is a lot of doublespeak coming out of the SEC, including Gary Gensler, regarding not just Ripple, not just Ethereum, and not just a spot Bitcoin ETF versus a futures ETF, which continues to boggle many minds. But let me know in the comment section below if you think he had any knowledge of what was going on during the Hillary Clinton campaign presidential run, or if he was simply signing checks. Nonetheless, he could have been just trying to climb that corporate government official ladder, trying to get into a higher paying job, which of course he's been very successful at doing. Or if you think maybe there's enough conflict of interest there, then maybe he should step down as the chairman of the SEC. Just a thought. And as I've been scouring some of the other macro news across the world, if anything is affecting the markets right now, if anything's affecting Bitcoin, the S&P, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, well, they're all in the green. And even with the potential wars, or at least a rumor thereof, with Russia and the Ukraine, it doesn't seem to be affecting the markets a whole lot right now. But that can change in an instant, and it's definitely something that I am keeping an eye on. So if you want to follow along with any of these stories, with the Ripple versus the SEC case, and of course anything going on with cryptocurrency world, make sure you subscribe to the Late Night Grind channel. And like I said, don't forget to hit that bell notification icon. And if you are new to the channel, go ahead and check out the community tab. I put up polls up there on a weekly, sometimes a daily basis, just because I love to get to know this community's thoughts on not just the Ripple case, but of course the cryptocurrency world and markets in general. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end and for smashing that thumbs up button. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.